Let's talk about this here. Continuing with this theme on Threads, Instagram, and the questions and comments to some of what I'm talking about. This says, entrepreneurs, what was the longest you worked without seeing a profit? Well, I can tell you the longest I worked without getting paid, which probably is the same thing. And as you can see from my answer, I didn't get paid for 2 years when I started my first company. It grew so fast, I was doing $8 million annually in the second year, that I had to learn how to make money. I was able to sell, but I had to learn how to make money. People talk all the time about how easy it is to be an entrepreneur, and you can do 4-hour work weeks and you can have passive income and all this other BS. And the reality is very, very different. I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I know a lot of business owners. And I can tell you that none of them, not one, ever had it easy. Not even the guys that inherited companies had it easy. Business is always difficult. Entrepreneurship, even more so. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're starting that new company, you say, well, Jerry, if I start this business, I got to get paid. How do you start the business and not get paid? I had kids at home. I had a brand new son when I started my first business. By the first time I pulled a payment, an actual check, I had a son and a daughter. And I had a half remodeled house that I couldn't afford to finish. But the timing was what the timing is. Remember, the best time to start a business is now and never. So same's true about buying a house. Go buy a house. It's either now or never. You can't time this stuff. You just got to go do it. You got to dive in with both feet and go nuts. And so I worked all day on the business, and I'm talking all day, 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. And then starting at 7 o'clock, I went, and I did this for years. I refereed basketball from 7 o'clock at night until 11 o'clock midnight. And on the weekends, I would go referee 8-9 games, getting paid $22 an hour back in the day, whatever it was, $23 an hour. And that is the money that I used to pay my bills while I was building a company. I had a company doing $10, $12 million a year in revenue in its third year, and I was refereeing basketball games to pay the bills. And I was paying $25 on the electric bill so they didn't turn it off, even though it was $125, because you always got to send them something, always. I did that for a couple of years before I started to take a paycheck. So understand when you're going into this, entrepreneurs, understand what you're up against. Anyone telling you differently, as I always say, is trying to sell you something, because this game is hard. Now, it's rewarding. Imagine the value of doing something that is probably harder than anything else there is to do in the world, than start a business, run it up, and make it profitable and make it yours. It is world-class difficult, but if you're able to do it, imagine what it does to your psyche. You can do it. You just got to understand the framework. You got to understand what it takes. You got to understand what goes into it. You got to understand the sacrifice and the risk. And you got to be prepared to not get paid. The question is then, how do you pay your bills? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to put in 15, 16, 17-hour days for a decade? Because many times that's what it takes. I did it. I raised 3 wonderful children while I was doing it, and they are with me here even through today in their mid-20s. I just helped my kids buy a duplex, as it turns out. So you can have your cake and eat it too. It just takes a dedication and a discipline that most people cannot imagine or will not believe. Opportunities are everywhere. You got to go get them. Go for a walk.